Maine now has its second national monument. This week, President Biden officially gave national monument status to the Francis Perkins homestead in Newcastle. The president had made it clear he wanted more monuments honoring women. The Francis Perkins Center is now operated by a local nonprofit that has restored her family house and barn and created programs to celebrate her life and work. The National Park Service will take over the management and preservation of the farm, presumably making more resources available. 207's Don Kerrigan is here with more on why this property was chosen as a national monument and what it could mean.
Absolutely, Rob. We've been following this for a while, and the people who manage the Francis Perkins Center have been hoping for a while to earn national monument status to enhance and expand the research, educational efforts, and other programs that go on there. We were at the center back in August when they met with federal leaders to make their case.
Nearly 2 centuries ago, this farm began supporting the Perkins family, making bricks and raising crops, and eventually helping to raise and then nurture a woman who would bring profound change to America.
The motto of her college class was "Be ye steadfast," and I think that sums up precisely Francis Perkins. Very steadfast.
Francis Perkins, born in 1880 in Boston, spent part of every summer on her family's farm in Newcastle.
Every summer she would come back here and spend time with her grandmother, and her grandmother encouraged her to pursue, her dreams, but pursue leadership that is founded in community values, something that she observed and witnessed and experienced in her time in Maine.
That history fills the old farmstead, now restored as the Francis Perkins Center.
Francis really pushed back on Victorian notions.
Director Giovanna Lockhart says the young Francis went out and did just what her grandmother had told her to do.
I mean, not only was she challenging gender norms of the time, her ideas about what the role of government should be in order to help people was quite new. I mean, when she went into government, there were no labor laws.
Francis Perkins became the leader of labor reform in New York City. And when Franklin Delano Roosevelt became president in 1932, he named Perkins Secretary of Labor, the first woman ever appointed to a presidential cabinet.
She goes in and she says, "Okay, I will take the position, but I have a list of demands." And on that list of demands were a 40-hour work week, unemployment insurance, bans on child labor, something she had seen firsthand, doing her work in the Consumers League and in fire safety law creation. Social Security, which they didn't call Social Security, it was, sort of old age insurance.
Social Security, signed in 1935 with Perkins looking on, permanently changed the lives of older Americans. So this is where her desk was.
Yes. So this is her typewriter. We've recently cataloged everything in the house. And so
the Perkins Center is filled with her books and belongings, her many awards.
AWA was the American Women's Association.
And much of it appears as it might have when Perkins lived here.
Even the stone walls on this property have some significance. We're told that Francis Perkins was here in 1939 listening to the radio in her car and leaning against this wall when the news came on that World War II had begun.
And all of this is why the U.S. Secretary of the Interior, along with National Park Service staff, came to visit, because the Park Service is seriously considering making the Francis Perkins homestead a national monument.
There are only a handful of national monuments in this country dedicated to women. And Francis Perkins is arguably one of the most important women in American history.
State Senator Peggy Rotundo is a board member of the Perkins Center and a strong supporter of national monument status.
What would national monument status and the involvement of the Park Service do that you can't do now?
Right. It brings national attention to Francis Perkins and to her work, and to the fact that her policies impact the lives of Americans every single day.
These places and the stories they tell ensure that current and future generations know how pivotal women have been in shaping the country we have and the country we aspire to live in.
The Secretary and her deputy heard from a variety of local and state officials, historians, and even Francis Perkins' grandson, who grew up in the house.
But every summer, she would come here for a few weeks, and then good things would begin to happen for a kid.
All agreeing a national monument would be the ideal next step. From the department, no promises, but lots of praise.
I will tell you, when our team first came here, they came back giddy. Because nothing gets an historian giddy like walking through a place and seeing the typewriter this person typed on.
Becoming a national monument would have the Park Service take over caring for the Perkins homestead and telling and sharing the story of a remarkable American woman who was, in many ways, a trailblazer.
That she had to be the first because and she even said, I took that role because there will be women that come after me that will want to and be qualified to do these leadership jobs, and if I don't do it, I can't wait for someone else.
Francis Perkins, they all say, deserves a monument.
And now she has it. We're told that the National Park Service, after it was signing on this past Monday, actually owns now the house and barn and land around them that are part of the Perkins homestead. Rob, the Francis Perkins Center owns the rest of the land, and they'll continue to manage it. They hope to eventually be able to build an education center of their own there. And of course, this becomes the second national monument in Maine, the first being Katahdin Woods and Waters. U.S. Senate just approved a bill to allow some expansion for better access to that monument.
All right, big changes coming. Thank you, Don.
Yep.